go. So my name is Carla, and I have been working with Healy for just over a year now. And when I began, I was really excited about the potential to be able to send this to people, because one of the pieces of my life is working with energy and working remotely with Reiki healing, and as well with Akashic records. And so the potential to integrate this into my practice was extremely exciting to me. And so I've been working with it through the year in different ways. And Healy is also an energy worker. So if you just want to pop in the chat, just so we can get an idea of who all is here today. If you are someone who works with energy healing, you consider yourself a healer. We are all healers, but if that's something that you consider yourself, just pop in the chat and let us know, so we have an idea of who's here and what we're working with. Let me know, like, a yes if you're an energy healer, or if you have worked with distant healing before. Yeah, okay. Distant energy healer, another healer. Yeah, only with Healy. Yeah, perfect. Isn't that great? Because Healy opens that potential to become, a healer. It gives you another tool to send off into the distance. So today I'm just going to do a little kind of brief slideshow to give you the basics, and you can come back obviously to the recording so that we can go through. And then we'll go into some deeper potential. Oh my gosh, a baby deer just like ran straight up to my window. So cute. I love that. All the energy. Okay, hypnotherapy, beautiful. Energy healer. Okay. Okay, amazing. I feel like Healy attracts all of us who understand energy, because we're working with that. So let me just go ahead and share my screen here. And we will go back here to the fun thing. Okay, I'm assuming you can see my screen. I like to just pop this on here because we are talking about using Healy in a way outside of pain. So if you can just take a moment to scan over that. Healy is designed to harmonize your bioenergetic field and enhance recovery, vitality, and well-being, not to cure, treat, mitigate, diagnose, or prevent disease. The information in this presentation for reference and educational purposes only. It should not be treated as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis. You got it. Okay, there we go. Done. Okay, so Healy distance sessions using both the blue and the pink apps. So like I mentioned before, we can use the distant healing capacity of Healy to send not only to our clients, but to our family members and to ourselves, and however we need to through the field. So, everything is energy. We all know that. And the invitation here is to open the mind of following exact rules to understand that everything is possible. And sometimes, like, the rules of how this app works and how this app works, really will close out the potential of how we can use this at the highest capacity for ourselves and for others. And so just so you know, I don't see the chat right now. Oh, there we go. Let me pop that over there. Okay, but Healy, if you want to watch the chat as well while I'm going through here, you can help out with that. Okay. So something that, just if like we're going to go through basics of if you're working with a client. So if you are an energy worker, you are somebody who is going to set up like a distance session. Just remember that we are still in the channel of energy. So if we're a Reiki healer practitioner, we would not offer healing if we were very unwell or if we were really like unstable. Obviously, we're human beings and we're never going to be perfect. So, there's never a point where like we're that perfect clean channel. We're still a human being, but we really only want to send if we are well. So the same goes if you're working with the Healy, even though it's a little bit, separated because we're working with the device. And that's one of the greatest things about the Healy is it is, a bit more separate from our personal energy channel. But just keeping in mind, reschedule if you're really unwell. And the other thing that's really the most important with anything is that you're asking permission. So I had like a lot of people at the beginning of my Healy journey that were like, oh my gosh, this is super amazing. This would be so great for my dad. My dad needs this. This is like, I want to send him frequencies. But if dad is not on board, if dad is like not actually wanting to receive, is not ready to shift out of the thing that, she thinks that needs to happen, then we're not doing that. It's always, necessary to have consent for sending energy in any capacity to anyone, because everybody's on their own journey, and that whether we think that they need something or not it's not the truth. What the truth is for them is that their journey is their journey. So we don't intervene unless asked. And that's like the most important thing, especially when we're working with Healy. And then, so this just point here about limiting time, this is for ourselves as well. We really do want to remember that our bodies are receiving energy and have, we do want to give ourselves adjustment time and integration time as well. So we're not sending frequencies all day, every day. When we're working with distant frequencies, they're really powerful, and less is more. We don't have to be sending somebody frequencies for really extended periods of time. We want to allow the body to absorb. And so when we're looking here, before a session. So say we have got on a call with somebody, or we've made an arrangement to be working with somebody, we definitely want to make sure that we're grounded in our body. We're going to make sure that we are connected. And we also, if you have an opportunity to do a cleansing practice beforehand, to cleanse any negative energy, or you want to get onto the earth beforehand, it would be very beautiful. If you're working with a client, sometimes just having a simple conversation at the beginning helps to ground them into the body. They may be a little bit unsure of what's happening to begin with, and definitely making sure that we are maybe even moving them through a grounding practice. And like Healy said in the chat too, on the permission note, if you're offering to an animal or a child that isn't there to give the consent, obviously a consenting parent. And it's a really beautiful point, because just because we want something for our children, it doesn't mean that they're actually like wanting to receive. And so we can use tools like a pendulum or muscle testing to identify if they're open and available. And I think sometimes as parents, we miss that a lot, thinking that we know best for our child or we know best for our animals. So yeah, thank you, Healy. That's beautiful to use the tools that we have available to us to really gain that consent, because it really is, I think, the most powerful piece of any distant healing. And any healing, actually, for that matter. So yeah, so before we begin, always grounding and centering, making sure that permission is there again in that actual session. If you're working with Healy, we know there's going to be a lot of questions about how this works. So making sure that you're explaining the basics of Healy, like what it is. The Healy is going to scan your bioenergetic field to identify the frequencies that are going to be the highest for you to receive. And then we have the capacity to send it through the quantum field using the scalar waves, right? So just have that very simple blurb that you have that you're going to share, so they have a general idea. If you're working with Reiki or you're working with anything else, you've explained to them a little bit if they don't know about Healy or about Reiki. Same thing if you're working with a Healy device, if they don't know anything about it, give them the very basics for the safety of the mind, for them to feel a little bit more grounded and centered. Sometimes the mind needs a little bit of, information to attach to. So preparing your client, however, your intuition is guiding you to in that moment. And we'll get into like the actual details of the session. This is going to be before. So the other thing that's really supportive to people is managing expectations. This we do in everything, and letting them know some of the possible outcomes. So you may feel some tingling, you may feel some lightness, you may feel, whatever sensations are going to potentially come up in the body, because some people are sensitive enough to feel energy as they're moving along, as they're receiving this. Some people may not feel anything, and you can let them know that as well, so that they're not disappointed if they're not actually feeling something. Letting them know that it's working on body, mind, spirit, and there's going to be energetic movement throughout all planes of their being. And then also letting them know on the outside some potentials that may arise, because some people may have kind of a heightened experience of it. I did a session for somebody at a distance one time, and she was like feeling very high after. And so I kind of let people know, like, our bodies are going to, have that possibility of responding to the energy in multiple different ways. And so we'll just make sure that we're communicating. And it's always, there's nothing that the energy can do to harm. So if there's a sensation that arises that you're uncomfortable with, you're always going to drink water, get minerals, ground, just being sure that you care for the body after. Water is key. So another thing that I'd like to do that's not on here before is have somebody drink a glass of water kind of while we're in the process of connecting as well, because water is big. Water is big. So just answering this question here. The mini description. Yeah, I can do that. I'll send it in the chat after, so I don't have to pop it through here. Okay, so is there any questions about beforehand? I feel like it's pretty simple, but is there any questions that come to mind at this point of things that you may have before you were to begin a session with somebody? You can just add them to the chat after. Okay. So when we're using the resonance, so that is on the resonance model, Resonance Plus and the Pro. And so this is designed to do that scan of our bioenergetic field to help us identify the program that we're going to want to send either to our microcurrents if we're using it ourselves, or to send to our clients. So this is just really basic. We kind of know how we are how we're doing it, but I just popped it in here to let you know what I like to do. I believe here the first and last name when you're adding a client into your Resonance app, the birth date is, some people will just say the name is fine. This is just my opinion, and you can use your intuition about what you want to add in there. But I really believe that the birth date is key, because what we're doing here is we're identifying the energetic signature, this blueprint of you that exists in the quantum field. And so our birth date is really a powerful piece of information. This is why we use it in so many different healing modalities as well. The photo, especially if you're going to do the aura analysis with them, you need to have a photo. So just automatically add that in. You can have them send you a photo beforehand, or just take a capture of the screen if that's okay. And then the email is really important, especially now that the Blue app is advanced, and the PDF option is really beautiful. So you can actually send them a piece after, which is really helpful. I can't see people, but somebody's unmuted. If you can try to make sure that that's awesome. So we're recording your signature. So just let them know, explain to them that the Healy is going to scan their original blueprint in the information field. And then if you're on a Zoom call with somebody, I like to hold the Healy in my left hand. I show it to them. So if they haven't seen a Healy, they have a visual in their mind showing them that I hold it in my left hand, and I'll ask them to envision that they're holding a Healy in their right hand, and asking them, because intention is absolutely everything, to hold that intention that you're always going to receive the highest frequencies, and being open to receive those highest frequencies at all time from a Healy as it scans them in their blueprint. Okay. Just seeing here, they can be going about their business outside of a session. A session is best to have them be present. Be going about their business outside of a session. In session, it's best to have them be present. Yeah, right. Okay. So this is like setting them up for a session here. And so we'll talk about like later. I don't always do a one-on-one session with people. So sometimes I get them added in as a client, and then I'll send distant frequencies to them multiple times a day for multiple periods. And I don't always have them identified like, okay, now we're doing this right here and now. This is like when we're actually setting them up to go. So during a session as well. So, when we're working with clients, you can do, like we're talking about here, we're going to talk about the pink app as well, but you can choose the programs that you're going to run them intuitively. You're a healer, you have your capacity, you've maybe had a conversation with them to know kind of what's happening with them and what's moving in their energy. You know what programs you have on your Healy, so you can intuitively choose, or you can allow them to choose. Sometimes I will give them a list of the programs. I'll pop them up on the screen and let them go through and choose and feel what programs they're going to want to receive from. And then also, obviously, we do a resonance scan to scan them. So I'll scan the all Healy programs to identify. And as we know, the top 5 programs are going to come up from there. And so then I use those top programs and will vibrate those into the field for them. And one thing that I really love to do, because if I'm doing a one-on-one session where I have them on a Zoom call, is I will create an experience for them. So I work with Yoga Nidra, I work with Reiki, as I mentioned. And so when I'm doing the resonance sending from the resonance, what I like to do is move them through a meditative experience or a journey of some kind. And I'm sending the frequencies at a time where they're already deeply relaxed. So I've identified the frequency at the beginning, got them set up as a client, and then I give that opportunity then to move into a really beautiful, relaxed state. And then I'm vibrating the frequencies for, depending, either 38 seconds or 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So that's not a lot of time. If I'm with somebody for an hour session, it's really more about the other things that I'm doing, but I'm enhancing the session with the vibration from the Healy. And so yeah, anything that you work with, crystal bowls, breath work, journeys, Reiki, any of those things, and just use your intuition of like when you're going to send the frequencies to them. But it's really beautifully received when somebody's in a relaxed mind, when they're in that more slower brainwave state for them to receive the frequencies. So again, just to keep in mind, if you want to give them information at the beginning, when you're vibrating those 5 programs, you're actually sending them frequencies. So you've got 5 different programs. Healy's quantum sensor is going to choose the highest frequency of each of those programs within there. So they're getting a very individualized experience, even though it's sending like, say I don't know, beauty is what came up. I don't know why that's in my head, but so say I was sending the beauty ones and there's like skin and like inner beauty and all of those. It's actually choosing the highest frequencies within each of those programs within that group to send them. This is very specific. And so I'll send this after. I think many of us have seen this before, but this can be a guide to help you identify how long you're going to send it to them when you have that option. So some people are sending frequencies for a very long time. There is a manual option and you can play with that and see what works best for you. But this is kind of like the Healy's recommended times here. So usually that 38 second or 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And then, so if you're working with people for a longer period of time, you're looking at like maybe working with them in a month-long container, then you would be sending 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Or if you're just working with somebody in nice close conversation, and you'll get an idea of where they're feeling better, you'd work with the shorters multiple times a day. So you can notice 6 to 8 times a day or 2 to 3 times a day. So just a consideration, if you haven't started using Healy for distance sending, some ideas that you could create like a multiple session in a package where you're doing multiple one-on-ones, where you're actually in a Zoom call and you're, doing your other beautiful work as well. If you do meditations or you work with energy, you're coming together in the way that you already have your own offering and then integrating this in. You can also create a specified container for like a Healy frequency experience, for example, where you are using it potentially for sales, but also, I mean, this is the beautiful thing about Healy is our sales are really serving humanity. So it's like an offering to the collective at the same time as actually giving exposure to your Healy business as well. And also obviously combining it with other modalities. So just for example, when I will do a frequency experience where it's very specific to Healy, I will create a container where I'm working with people for, say, usually I do like 10 or 11 days. And I'll have a start date and an end date. So I gather the people to get them all added in as clients. So I'll take like a day and I do like 15-minute, 20-minute calls where I'm really just giving them information about Healy. I'm doing all those things at the beginning, getting them stored as a client. And then if we have time in that call, I'll do like one nice, like little short meditation and send them the frequencies the first time. And then I'll let them know that they'll be receiving frequencies, 2 to 3 times a day. And I'll give them the choice. Do you want me to text you before I send, or do you want me to just send them to you and let them know that they're going to be receiving? And so they don't have to be sitting and waiting. They can go about their day and receive the energy. And then I check in with them continuously throughout that period of time and just give them that space to talk. I'm just going to check the chat here. You guys are answering each other. Perfect. Yeah. I just glanced down. Yeah. So if you're sending somebody frequencies like 6 to 8 times a day, definitely trying to spread it out, because like we said, we want to give the body an opportunity to absorb the energy and make adjustments. Because the next time, this is the magic of the quantum sensor, is going to send them the frequencies that they need. And there's room for adjustment, right? Like it's going to sense what you need in that moment. So every time you're running a program, it's identifying where you're needing to receive and it's making adjustments. So it's going to be slightly different frequencies perhaps in that next moment that you're sending. Okay. When you have a group like that, you aren't adding as a group. You can add them as a group if you want to. So that's another option. You could just like run a group container if that would be more, like sometimes I'll do like a coaching container. So I'm using the coach and I'm doing like one intention that is like for everybody. But I personally, what I was describing before, say I gather like 5 people seems to be the number that I can handle with my life, managing to like remember to send frequencies to people and actually pause for a minute and give them that intention. Because that's the other thing, when we're sending the frequencies, if you're just like, okay, now I've got a second and I'm going to send Healy some frequencies right now and then go back to your dinner or whatever, it's not really as intentional, right? Our intention is everything when it comes to Healy. So you're holding that container for them as well every time you're sending the frequencies. So I like to, center myself, like I said at the beginning, center myself, you've got that permission, come into a little bit of a intention of, may she receive the highest frequencies in this moment, knowing that Healy is also doing that. And then I send those frequencies and then move on. So 5 people seems to work for my day, and each of them is individual. Yes. And so the Healy, so are you using a separate Healy so that you can still be using it on yourself? You can, like you're sending it for such a short period of time. So if you only have one Healy, you can do this. Obviously, you don't have to be running it on yourself. Many of us, because we have such a beautiful company here, have so many different Healys. So sometimes, yeah, I just kind of use, it doesn't really matter. It's whatever app you want to pull up and use there. How often do you do resonance scans for the client? Okay, so the multiple times a day, depending on what we've agreed. Sometimes I will just do like one scan and then send from the list those frequencies. Most of the time, if I'm using like these programs, not the ones that are listed on the screen, that's my next slide. But so if I was just sending those 5 programs, then I would scan that same, scan every day and then send them the frequencies that are needed that day. Really, this is like, you can do whatever you want here. So you could make that decision as you're offering, right? Like if you're working with somebody for 10 days, for example, you could choose to do a scan at the beginning of every day and then send those frequencies. Or you could do a scan at the very beginning of the container and then just send from the list those frequencies. Yeah, I love these programs. I put them up here. These are really beautiful programs if you're really wanting to give people an experience of Healy, because these have specific feedback to them. So they're a really beautiful one if you're wanting to give people an opportunity to really like go, holy crap, that's really accurate. Like, wow, that's really beautiful, right? So these are some of the ones. And now on the Blue app, they're just separated out. So when you're looking at your resonance app now, there's the resonance frequencies that are all the other like body programs and mind programs and all of that. And then there's the mag programs that are separated out as well. And then there's these, they call them the database analysis. So these have some incredible feedback. If you haven't played with some of these, I really recommend it. They are so accurate and so powerful. So these are really beautiful if you're doing that one-on-one session. There's some serious power involved. The Bach flower remedies are my favorite. They're just because I love flower essences. So if you're a flower essence practitioner, can you imagine working with a Healy scan and then actually being able to offer, the actual flower remedy, or, the Alaskan gem elixirs? You've got crystals, you work with people with crystals and you're suggesting that. I mean, these are really beautiful offerings for anyone. I mean, if you're into astrology, human design, the I Ching is really, really incredible, because that's what's part of, they've utilized the I Ching in human design. So these are really, really beautiful. So just to read the chat here, Healy says that she's found keeping the same intention every time you scan with the pink app programs inside the Blue app is helpful. The results can be similar at the beginning because the root cause is consistent. So you do this until there's a resolution. Beautiful. So after any session, if you're doing like the one-on-one, or it's the end, of a container, just making sure that you're giving an opportunity for people to ask questions and receive the support for anything that may have come up for them. If it's something that you are unable to answer, this is the beauty of our business, is we have uplines and that sort of thing, because something might have come up from the actual Healy experience, but you're always there to answer questions and help ground them in. You're going to do a clearing of your own self. So every time you're sending frequencies to somebody, if you can make sure that you're clearing your own energy as well. We're working in the quantum field here. There is, a capacity for you to, take on information as well, energy, because of, the intention to be part of it. You're introducing yourself as part of the equation here. And so you want to be sure that you're cleansing yourself always in the ways that you do, crystals, smudge, water is very beautiful and helpful. I also like to remind my clients too that getting into a body of water, like having a shower, having a bath, that sort of thing, is really helpful for even integrating the information, because we're such a, water being. And then so the follow-up email with the PDF is very helpful. and letting them know of any like potential detox symptoms that might arise, as well as managing them. So if people are talking about headaches, for example, are something that can happen, because when we're shifting out of, as we all know, is energy. If we're shifting out of something, there might be a physical sensation in the body, like a headache or a rash or something that can arise. And so just being sure to, like release that through energy, water, minerals, grounding, those sorts of things, right? Okay, so yeah, Jocelyn, how you go through the results with a client for the information. Yes. So, the regular frequencies that are in the resonance, there's not really, the results that come up, basically we'll just let them know these are the the 5 programs that came up in your scan. And I'll usually send them a little screen cap so they know exactly which frequencies are being sent to them. But here, like these programs, if we're working one-on-one in conversation, obviously I'm sharing it with them on a screen, for them to see what's coming up. And then if you're working, like a lot of times I'll do it in WhatsApp, like just sharing with them. And so I'll send them in bits and pieces what is coming up and ask, getting them to give me their feedback, as well as you're having a conversation, asking questions. Is this something that is going to be valuable? Sometimes, so just here with the aura, I was going to say the aura scans can be really deep and revealing. So just considering, do you have a desire to hold people in what's coming up before you choose to share an aura scan with somebody? Just be aware. And I feel like all of us here, you have a curiosity, or you're already a healer, you're ready, you can hold that capacity, but just make sure you're very grounded before you run an aura scan for somebody, so that you can hold them in that. Because what will come up in the aura a lot of times pulls on traumas, and you can work with the the intensities. So when you see something on the intensities here, that second number that comes up when you're doing an aura scan, if it is below 6, there's a high likelihood that somebody might be confrontational, or like not really like want to receive that information. So you can use your own discernment of whether you want to share that's come up with them. If you've been working with this client for a while and you feel really comfortable, or you're somebody who's just like ready to hold them in all the depth, then you're totally fine. You can do that. You might want to start out with 6 and above with intensity. That's just a nice thing to go with there. So, so this aura scan, I absolutely adore the aura scan. I feel like any of us who are working with energy, this is such a beautiful integration at the beginning of a session to do the aura scan. And then you're working with you're sending them the frequencies, and you're sending them your energy, or their breath work, or the journey, or whatever working through, is really beautiful. There's also some really sweet affirmations that come up with some of the lower scoring chakras. And you can integrate those affirmations into your meditation, perhaps, to really support them in balancing out those energies. And just remembering, with the aura scan, you're scanning the information of the chakras in the energy field. It's not the same as an auric field. It's not the same as like when we're working on the body's chakras. So this is like the energetic blueprint, essentially, of the chakra, which is really beautiful, but it's different, So we're balancing on that plane, and we're balancing here. It's powerful. This is not for the faint of heart, this aura. I absolutely adore it. I did it at a trade show one time I was offering. It was like a divinity trade show, but it was bringing up some really good stuff for people. And I was like, okay, I'm holding you. We're in this space. But there was like talk about the father and like the things. And so I was also adding some, energetic support for my own self to like even help them receive the information. Yeah, it was beautiful. And then the PDF that is sent out from the Aura Scan is really beautiful and comprehensive. There's information for them to learn about the chakras. The Healy information about the chakras is really quite extensive. So going through that app, just familiarize yourself with it, because there's really kind of like extra added pieces that you can add for your client. So you can use the information from the scan to pull into your other practice, right? So yeah. I like it at the beginning. I think I mentioned that. So, yeah, the Aura Scan with Reiki is so beautiful. People are very attracted to the chakras, right? Like I find at the beginning, when people are curious about receiving healing, chakras attract people. They want to learn more about it because it's such a natural integration of all of our energy. So having a really good understanding of the chakras is very helpful when we're working with our clients. And Healy does a really good job of explaining that. And so even just simply reading, if you're not comfortable yet, you're not used to it, just read what they have there and help share. And yes, you can. I'm not sure who iPhone is. It says we can't change the focus of the Aura Scan anymore. We can. You have to go in before. So on in the settings now, before you have to, so right when you download your Blue app, it's defaulted to not be able to do that. But you can go into the settings and enable, I don't know what they call it, but you'll know what I mean when you go into it. I'm not on it right now. But you can go in and enable it, and then you can, and then you'll be able to go into the little 3 dots and you'll be able to change it. So if you have questions about that later, just message me and I will actually look in I can't remember what I did at one time. So okay, so that's the very like quick with the aura analysis. Does anybody have any quick questions about that? I'm just going to go through the coaching, and then we're going to talk about some like unique ways that we use our Blue app there. So coaching analysis is one of my favorites. I use this with my Akashic readings a lot, because I find like if you're somebody who's working with clients, most likely they're coming with a struggle, or they're have an issue, or there's probably a point in your practice where you're sitting with somebody before you go into just offering them energy. So the coach is so powerful at helping identify where things are coming from and like what is at the core of that. And it's, even though of course I can go into the field and access, I love that it is, it's Healy and that person that I'm working with and their blueprint. It's like, it's such an accurate straight line to the information, and it's so trustworthy, and it's so powerful. So I like to integrate, we remember that our intention is really, really powerful with Healy. And so anywhere that our energy, is focused is where energy is going to go. So when we're working with the coach with people, a big portion of that time is going to be spent on helping them come up with a very concise, detailed focus for their container. So I'll do coaching containers with people. I think this is a really beautiful way to work with giving people an opportunity to try Healy. And I also think that it's really powerful for helping them shift and manifest things in their life. So I will get on a call with them or sit, in message and really get them to think about their intention. You ask them their focus, or you let them choose from. Now we have those predetermined ones in our Blue app. So I can give them a list of them and see if any of those resonate with them. And then if you need to tweak it and refine it, we want to make sure that the coaching statement is extremely concise. So they do give us quite a few characters that you can put in there, but you want to make sure when you're working with an intention that it's always in the positive. It's always concise. It's always, you're speaking as if it's already happened. You're putting yourself in that future version of yourself that already has everything that you've ever desired and, want around this focus, and make sure that it's quite detailed and specific. So just in the chat here, yeah, Jen. So for the containers for charging, I personally don't charge for the container right now that I'm sending out, because I'm using it as a marketing tool to just like get people to experience Healy. So at this moment in time, while I'm really getting like, I don't know, like the feel for how I would build out an even more powerful container where I'm integrating more of my own thing. For now, I'm doing it as like an offering. I have such a desire for people to know this Healy and to get one. I just think that it's really a beautiful thing. So I'm not, but one thing that my Reiki teacher told me a million years ago, it seems like, is that it's really important for us to have a reciprocation for our energy. If we're putting our energy out, that there's some kind of reciprocation. So if it doesn't feel good enough to you to just like know that there is a potential for somebody to align with a Healy at some moment in time, then put a dollar value on it that feels good for you. So however you value your time, however you value your gifts, it's impossible for somebody to tell you how much to charge for your gifts. That's, I would never want to plant in how much it should cost. That's between you and yours, because it's really important that you value create your own value on that for yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, another point on, so the coaching focus, if it's not concise enough, actually, what you'll notice when you have hit a concise statement, you'll notice a lot of D's come up in the feedback on there. So for that means that you're kind of working in the physical, you've hit something that you're ready, your readiness is there. So you have that indication from the feedback that comes up with the Healy, that will let you know. Here, I'll go back to, I had it on this slide here in the aura. Oops, where did I have it? I don't have my, oh yeah, we went all the way out. I went way past it. I was just going to show you, or actually, sorry, the next slide over here, right here. So in your potency at the top here, if you have like lots of D's come up, then that's a good indication that you've hit a really great coaching statement. If you have 0 D's, that's a good time to refine and get more concise. And it's not like they're going to cause any problems by not having a concise one. It's just that the more concise you are, the more supported you are going to be to having that creation, because Healy is moving anything that's in the way of you reaching that goal, is like working to like move it out of the way, or it's going to be working to attract what you need in order to come into alignment with the blueprint of you that already has everything that you're asking for there. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have them read the states that the Healy has brought up in your coaching. So one way I like to do this is I'll do a screen cap on my device, a video recording as it's going, and then I make sure that I send that to them, so that as I'm sending them those frequencies over the multiple days, that they can actually kind of be in that no time space, right? And nothing exists. So you're actually giving them an opportunity to read over that while they're intentionally receiving frequencies. So choose a few to focus on first if you're doing a longer, container. So, because there's always like quite a few that come up. Sorry, Ray, I don't know what you're referring to. Why is that? Oh, the D? I don't know what you're, sorry, I don't know what that. Oh, the D is indicating. I'll show you right here. So the D's and the C, the D is more relevant because it's you're dealing with the cause before you're dealing with the effect. So Oh, why does it mean you've hit a good statement? Okay, perfect. Because you're dealing with the cause. So it's like you're already at that causal point. So you know that you're going to have more of an alignment when you're working with the D's. Yeah. So if you don't see any D's, check if your intention or focus are clear. I was just reading what was put in this. See if that's helpful. Yeah, I just like it because it's working with the causal point. I feel like that's going to be most efficient in getting to your goal. You're getting into the root. And also it's showing you things that are in the physical layer. So, like we have things that exist in the spiritual, and then they exist in the mental plane and emotional plane, and then they become physical. So if we haven't dealt with something on the mental, it will eventually become a physical manifestation in the body. And so if we're working with something in the coaching, we're going to want to work with that, which has kind of like already become physical, shifting out from there. You're going to have some really beautiful response there. Okay. So including getting D's as the D's that are ancestral as well. Yeah. I mean, because if you go in here, we've got, D, I, E, 36. Yeah. Even though it's ancestral, it's like it's existing in the physical experience. Yeah. So any of these D's here from this chart here. And like I said, they're obviously not all going to be D's. It's just if you have like 1 or 2 or 3, that's great. If you have 0 D's, then you're going to want to refine your statement. Okay, the reason why I popped out all of these is because I don't like to give somebody just like a whole chart of all of that information, because all of us have seen all of this probably, and you probably don't know it super well, or because it's overwhelming, right? It's a lot of information. And so I break it up. If I'm working with somebody in a container of time, then that's why I've got them broken up in here. So I will give them just the relevance. And I'm like, read through your things and learn about the relevance. So I just give them this. So they're looking and they're going to just look at the feedback that's come up, and they've got, okay, we're going to look at the percentages and we're going to go through that. And then in a couple of days, I give them this information about the intensity. So then they can learn about the intensity and let that absorb and land in. And then we will go through the potency, and that, and then I give them the potency and all of this together so that they're not getting too much all at one time. I really want people to learn the power of what is coming through the coach, because this is literally game changer for all. If we know where our limiting beliefs and our blocks and energies are coming from, then we can really create change and shift energies in our being, right? So, yeah. Ultimately, the goal is to have a Healy in everyone's home, right? That is the mission of Marcus, is for everyone to have a Healy. So I really like the opportunity to help people decide if Healy is something that is for them and is for their family. So there's so many different ways we can work with this. And I think the capacity that we have to work on a distant is beautiful. I love the idea that we can integrate it into our practices, because, we all still want to use our own medicine in the world. We've come here with purpose. We're here for a reason. And we definitely want to, share this device that we love so much with other people. So by giving them this information, I think it's so beautiful. Hold on just 1 second. Okay, using the guide for the okay. All right. So I want to give Healy an opportunity to explain how she has worked, because I think it's so beautiful. How she, just instantly when she kind of tapped into Healy, had like a knowing that it didn't have to be a specific way, that it was like obvious. And I love when people have obvious kind of awareness. For me as well, like I've used the pink app in different ways. Like we're allowed to do what we want to do. We have our own sovereign, like freedom rights of all. And so I just love how Healy talks about Healy So go ahead and share with us how you use. I know all of us are really curious because you're breaking the rules with using the pink for distant, and I think it's really awesome to share. And then we'll go over some questions, and I'll read through and try to answer some of the chat things now too.
Thank you, Carla. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love systems and I love like whole systems, but I'm also like blurring the lines a little bit. So to me, it's just kind of I don't I see the lines, I respect the lines, they're embodied, and then I like to go outside. So when I first got my Healy, or I should say first, I am an energy healer. I've been in practice for 24 years now. And the first modality that I trained in is called the Lifeline technique, and it specifically works through the subconscious mind. And then I have a flow chart that tells me where this person's blocks are. So it's, the mind, the body, the spirit, the structural body, the chakras, the elements, the meridians. So it's with my intention that's where the energy goes. So I already had that kind of in my own experience in my field. So when I got my Healy, to me, it's just the frequencies are energy. So I used the big cap to send people frequencies. And the first time I did it, I was in a session with a client who is like ultra sensitive to energy. She's in New York and I'm in Vancouver, and she was having a lot of problems being around um, vaccinated people. Her breathing would become extremely labored. Her arms and fingers would swell, and the tips of her fingers would get black. I mean, it was very, very severe. So I knew that Bridge Hanlon had a program for shielding somebody's body from that. So I purchased the program, and in a session, I did what I do. I sent the intention to send her the frequencies of the program. And I had a photograph of her and I just put it on the photograph. And then I had the percentage set kind of high. And she said, "Oh my God, I really feel that. What's going on?" And I said, "Well, I've just started the program." She said, "Could you turn it down?" And I said, "Sure." So I turned it down. She said, "Oh, it's much better." So I had immediate feedback that she was receiving the frequencies. So I was like, all right, then I'll just do that. And then I actually contacted Briege and asked her, I was like, is that kosher? Do people do that? And she said, yeah, there are maybe a few programs that it wouldn't work with, but for the most part, that's how you do it. So I think another power of example is a very dear friend of mine texting me late at night. She's on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. And she said, I've spiked a fever. I've got body aches all over my body. I mean, she's in her late 80s. So for her, this is a dangerous thing to get, a respiratory virus. Um, and I'm in bed, I have a migraine, I'm like laying in the dark kind of thing, like the light hurts my eyes. And because I love her so dearly, and she was asking me for help, I looked up the virus protocol that shall not be named. I looked up the protocol and I said, okay, I'm just going to send her these programs. But my intuition kicked in. So what I did was I did a blue app scan and I said, other than her immune system, is there any frequency that can help her recover from this quickly? And I did the blue app scan, some results came up, and I sent her, I think it was 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Um, and then I chose one of the programs from the protocol, and I chose Shiver. And sorry, I did Defense first. So I opened up the blue app. I had a picture of her in the blue app, and I just set the intention for her to receive the frequencies. Now, what I want to say is when I say set the intention, my training is to see everybody already healed and whole. Because when we have disturbances in our field, the root cause is coming usually from the subconscious. It's coming from ancestral patterns. It's coming from karmic ties. It's coming from things that happened in utero. Those things are here with us, but they're not us. They're not who we are. So I had a vision of her essence, and I saw her not in bed, sick. I saw her in her living room dancing with a twinkle in her eye. And I said, that's my intention. So I told her what I was doing, and she said, all right, I can't text anymore. I feel so ill. And I said, don't worry, I've got you. So I put it on and I went to bed. And then I got up in the morning and there was a text from her saying, I don't know what you did, but I feel totally fine. I have some mucus. Can you do anything about that? And I said, yeah. So I sent her, I think it's Shiver, works on the mucous membranes. And by the afternoon, she was fine. When I had a conversation with her, I told her what my intention was. And she said, and also, do you think because you love me, that it worked that well? And I said, yeah, I think that's also what it is. And she said, and do you think because I trust you so much, it worked that well? And I said, yeah, I think that's what it is. So for me, what it taught me a lot, and I would say it reminded me a lot. When I do this with my clients, I have to access how much I love them unconditionally and how much I know what's possible for them and how I see them in their luminescent, healed, and whole self. And that's what creates this profound connection. Now, that's not what Bridge, told me to do, but it's the power of intention. We are engaging with quantum entanglement. So, one of the things that Bridge also said was, Healy is 50%. We are the other 50%. To me, that is the best news possible because we're not giving over our sovereignty to this device or these frequencies. We're actually accessing our own consciousness. So wherever you are in your journey as a healer or a lay person, I think experiences like that will deepen your faith in Healy, but also yourself. It's going to kind of increase your level of self-trust. And yeah, I think it's also going to give a lot of people a lot of permission to see what else is possible. So I hope that helps. And if anyone has any questions, please do ask.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love how you were listening, right? We all have to listen with so much distortion in the world right now. We have this beautiful tool. I just love it. So go ahead and ask your questions in the chat and or unmute yourself and ask too. That's fine too.
Well, there's a question saying, so do you put a photo of them near the Healy? You put the Healy on the photo. What I'm about to start playing with is writing out the focus statement with their picture and put the Healy on top of that. I work with women now who have complex PTSD and trauma. So there are times when my system is like, I need a little help. So that Healy has been incredible to help me just continue the work when my systems need a rest. But yeah, I would put the Healy right on the photo.
Yeah, a really beautiful thing with all sending practices is to have a little altar space or, a space where you're keeping it really clean and clear and that energy is there and you're putting, the picture or the statement of their desire there, like, because even the idea of having like your vision of her dancing and, being in her joy, it's like, what is her vision as well of her desired wholeness? And sometimes I will ask, like, what is and that's what I'm learning through the coach, right? Is like, what is your vision? Then we can connect them to their original blueprint of why they came here. Because inside, we all know that. I love that.
So someone asked, did I run the full program? Yes, I did because I went to bed. It was really late for me. And I was like, I can't stay up. I've got work tomorrow. So I just trusted that she would get what she needed. In terms of the percentage, I'm a kinesiology muscle tester. So I just muscle tested what was the optimal percentage for her. Um, Victoria, great. I'm so glad. Um, the two stories were amazing. Can you briefly say again what you did as far as the app goes? I'm not sure what you mean, Jessica. Can you unmute yourself and clarify?
Yes, hi. I mean you're kind of doing it, but if you could just like really simply state like the just the practical, like what program were you in? What did you click on?
Got
Like
it.
that kind of part, because the story was beautiful, but I got a little bit lost in what you actually did, like
Got it.
physically.
So when I asked outside of her immune system, is there anything else that would help her recover? And then I did the blue scan and I sent her those frequencies in combination. Then I knew that her immune system really needed bolstering. So I went to the defense program and that's what I sent her in the pink app. So I went into the pink app, I chose defense. I opened up the blue app again because it had her photo in it, and I just put the Healy on her photo, right? But I also had my intention, right? So I went into not just the visioning in my mind, but like a deep sensation in my body of the joy of her waking up in the morning and being, you know, dancing with a sparkle in her eye. I mean, it was really a visceral um, experience for me. Um, it probably would still work without that, but I feel like we got a pretty quick result because of that intention. So if you can find a way, I think everyone can tune in their own way. Some people are not that visual, but it could be a felt sense in your body, like a knowing. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. And that's the same thing you basically did with the first example as well.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So in my training, I don't move on. I have a flow chart that tells me where to go, like where this block is, in this person's body, mind, or spirit. And I don't move on to the next step until I get a locked muscle when I muscle test. So that's how I know that that system has received the energy that it needs. And then I can move on. So when I was working with that client, I muscle tested, is she receiving the frequencies, and I got a yes. And then immediately she said, oh, what's that? So okay, if you know the person well, do you think the photo is necessary? No. I'm an energy healer, so for me, I know the universe knows who I'm sending it to, but I'm doing it with intention. Like I said, in higher up in the chat, energy in its essence is quite chaotic, for lack of a better word. It needs direction. So um, I think if you have a picture in your mind of where it's going, and if you don't have a picture, then I think, birth date and full name are really important. And I would use the person's last name as well. Yes. Pink app and photo. Yes, you can use the photo you create for a client. The digital photo works, yep, in the blue app. That's all I did. I just put an inner photo in the blue app. Essentially, it's not that different from vibrating from the blue app. Energy, like I said, if you give it a direction, it will go there. Yes.
I just tried to summarize what you said for her.
Great. Yeah.
Hopefully I did. Did I get it right?
Let me see. Blue scan, send distant frequencies, open pink app, choose the program. Open blue app again to bring up picture of the person, place the Healy on the phone or photo, send Healy frequency from pink app, muscle test pendulum if client is receiving. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I can tell like in a
I
session.
have a question.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So when I try to send from the Pink app, usually you wear the wristbands and it tells you the current is flowing, the current is receiving, and all of that. But
Yeah.
if you're sending distance, the person is not wearing. So that way, is it still sending? And can you close the Pink app, or you have to keep connected to stay connected on the Bluetooth?
Well, in order to put it on the Blue app photo, you have to close the Pink app to go back into the Blue app. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is the Healy itself is it's emitting frequencies whether you have the cables and the bracelets in it or not. When I got my Healy, I dove in with the coil and it was way too much for me. And so I just thought, well, I'll just use it without the cables or the coil. And I built up my tolerance for frequencies that way as I did the gold protocol. So that worked really well.
Because the other day I tried doing it, and yeah, the little waves kept on saying that frequency was not going through because I was not wearing the bracelet. But you just ignore that, and you just
Yes.
and you can close the app even if it says you're not receiving the frequency. You can still close the app, and it's still going through.
Absolutely. So let's say
Okay.
you don't use the photo in the Blue app and you actually have a like a printed photo of the person. You could close the Pink app. The Healy is running the program. You just put it on the picture.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
question.
Alexandra, that little statement there is just talking about the conductivity, right? So the frequencies are being sent regardless. It's just talking about conductivity. So even if you had your bracelets on, you're still receiving frequencies from the Healy itself.
Amy F. Yes, perfect.
Oh,
Exactly. You got it right. That would work. You send the program from the Pink app and all the time. Yeah, the whole program. So I heard someone describe a program, like a Pink app program, almost like a lasagna. If you turned it off early, you'd be like, you wouldn't have the noodles in the lasagna. Like every frequency is it's part of the recipe. Yeah, you don't have to have the coil on.
And I just want to add, to avoid like printing out a photo and stuff, what I did is on my iPad, that picture is literally just a picture she sent me or I grabbed off her Instagram. And the program is running on that same iPad. Like it's all together. It's so simple and so easy. So you don't have to print out a picture. So you don't have to waste a tree.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's
coil,
go ahead.
I was answering because quite a few times people are talking about the coil. This is where like the mind, right? We're starting to but like how does the thing, right? So the coil and the cords are a means to transfer the frequencies into the body. It's one, just like if we're doing Reiki, for example, my hands touching your body is one way of you receiving frequencies. But if my hands are over here and you're in Mexico, you're receiving frequencies from this channel through a different means. So just thinking of like these as just different ways, different applications. And so even remembering that if you don't have so say you've got a 2-year-old and you're maybe not 100% comfortable putting a microcurrent on them because you can't like feel inside their body. Maybe you are, but maybe you're not. Or the coil, you don't really know. You can use this just like this and put it near them if you want, and they'll receive them. Or, you can send distant frequencies like we're talking about. So it's just opening our ideas beyond.
And the super sensitive client that I spoke about in the first example, she now has her own Healy, and she's like me. She couldn't tolerate it even with the coil. So she's having a hard time even without the coil. So now what I have her doing, I've designed a protocol for her, and she's going to have a picture of herself, and she's going to put the pink app program on the picture of herself. That's what feels safe to her. She really wants to use the Healy, but it's just, it puts her into a panic state. She's got long haul COVID, so she's got a lot of reactivity going on in her system. So this is how we're going to get her over not just the physical hump, but the fear of getting worse, like something else making her worse. So I've got her using it on a picture of herself with the pink app programs.
I love that. I have a friend who has Lyme, and she, when she used the Healy just with the coil, even her heart, because she's having heart problems at night and stuff like that, and it was just too much. So same thing, I tried to send her distant frequencies and it was too much. I was like, oh my gosh, and that you just kind of explain what's happening there too with her. And so, because it's traumatic, like having these responses in the body, it's very traumatic. And so, yeah, so I was actually sending, and I just loved when you put that in. That's why I was attached. I was like, this is so cool, because somebody else is like seeing it and we're getting it, because she can actually receive the frequencies from the pink. So yeah, it's beautiful.
It's helping her build some self-trust too, because she can sense, okay, I've had enough, and it's not me sending it to her, like there's something there's a lot of trauma there, so she needs to feel absolutely safe. So this has to be on her terms, it cannot be on mine. And it's working. So
beautiful. I love that. I just have a direct message here. So the question is about holding, like, how long do I hold containers, and do I combine breath work or Reiki or anything? So like I mentioned when I was chatting through at the beginning, and I don't know if you missed it, but we can think of Healy frequencies as a beautiful tool. And like we talked about, 50-50, right? Like, so what do you have in you that wants to be expressed into the world? What are your gifts inside of you? What is that outside of Healy, outside of that? If you love to work with breath, or you love to work with Reiki, or whatever that is, find a way where you can work them together. So, the containers can be as long or as short. They can be like anything. This is like, it's all possible. So it's like how we're all, I feel like if you do Reiki, for example, it's just like the thing I know, but I mean, I have co-created with so many different people offering Reiki in yoga classes and breathworks, journeys, medicine ceremonies, like I've integrated it with so many different things. Healy frequencies are going to be similar to that. So I actually have myself booked in to support a psychedelic journey with Healy frequencies. I'll report back and see how that goes. So we can utilize this any way we want at all, so I think that it's beautiful to use the chats and share, in the chats that we have in the experience group, how we're using frequency, and help expand each other's minds into the possibility, so that we are going out into the collective and offering our gifts and combining with Healy frequencies, so that we are, so that we're sharing this however our intuition guides us to do so, right? So I'm just going to take a couple more questions here between Healy and I here, and continue this chat on. So Healy has just put her Instagram, you have two of them, two Instagrams, whichever one there, her Instagram accounts in, and yeah, just follow along, ask questions, and see where we can go with all of this. Okay, beautiful. Is there anything else that you want to share, Healy, before we close out today?
yeah, I think there's one thing. I think Jess Hester kind of gave me a little bit of permission to kind of go with where my intuition was going with this. So even for myself, if I have one particular physical challenge that I'm focused on treating with Healy, and when you go into the advisor app, it's going to pull up a bunch of suggestions. But I also have a working knowledge of Chinese medicine, so I know the root organs and that kind of stuff. But now I have all this data. What do I do with it? And she suggested that I do a scan in the Blue app. And I think she was implying like almost every day. So you get a different result, but with the same intention. So what I've noticed is the results are very similar every day, but the numbers change or the top 2 programs are flipping. And what it's reminding me of is that the quantum sensor can be trusted. It's going to see things we cannot see, right? It's an objective observer. We are the subjective observer. So it's something that I'm playing around with, and it's kind of helped me just build like a trust muscle, even with the quantum sensor. So I highly recommend it. But I do suggest that you keep the in focus statement or intention consistent, and then see what happens. So what you could also do is just then go to the Pink app and run yourself the top 2 or 3, as long as they're high enough.
Yeah, this quantum sensor is absolutely game changer when it comes to intuition. You know, like it's the thing that is so, so special because we can use it in so many different ways. And remember too, that each of these programs, it's not just one frequency, right? There's so many different frequencies in each of these programs. And the quantum sensor is scanning us every 10 seconds while we're running a program. And so if we run that same program with that same intention, the next time we run that same program with the same intention, we're getting different frequencies because we're shifting. And so there's nothing more beautiful like this out on the market, because it is helping us be, you know, it's like acknowledging that we are different in every moment. You know, it's like there's so many frequency devices out there that acknowledge, like, it's so great. You have strep throat, we're going to run a strep frequency and we're going to get to the core of it, and they'll do that. That's great. But this is like, as we shift and we grow and we move, and we're like, there's multiple issues and challenges and things that we have going on, and it does know more than what we say. So when we're holding that intention, you know, on the resonance, it has the, like, with what we're in the highest resonance with, or whatever it is. I don't even look at it anymore because I'm always holding my own intentions there. But for example, when we're using the release program, right? Like, can you go deeper? Like, what am I releasing in my body? You know, is there an emotional experience that I'm wanting to release right now? Is there a behavioral like pattern that I'm wanting to release right now? So a lot of times I utilize like the coach to help me identify some of my blocks and my limitations and stuff. And then I go back in to and do a scan with like the release program, because I know that it's so powerful. I use this one often. That's why I'm using it as an example. And then I actively intend to release that which has been brought up in the coach. You know, there's so many ways that we can use these programs together to help us clear and create. Okay, so Jessica, I think, was asking you, Healy, a question about what you had just said before with the resonance focus. Did you say the Blue app?
So when I do an all Healy scan, I have the exact same intention every time I do the scan. So I tested it out. It's like, no intention, just give me whatever. And then with intention, and it's like, wow. First of all, the percentages are much higher. And I would get usually like the top one would be like 71%. And then the other, you know, ones would be like in the 50s or 40s. So it was really telling me, although this is the next layer, it's gonna read. See, here's the other thing. I have an idea of how to treat this thing, but I know the quantum sensor can see things I can't. So it has pulled up certain programs. I'm thinking, well, now that is interesting, right? Because I don't really know what all the layers are necessarily. And this is an experiment for me. So I'm just going with trusting what it's saying, because there's something in that activation program that is associated with a root or one of the layers of treating this. So far, so good. But I would say also, if you're comfortable with experimenting and you know your body can handle the frequencies, just know you're not going to hurt yourself. all the frequencies are healing frequencies. The worst thing that could happen is you might feel a little pukey one day or headachy, which means go take a shower, get your bare feet on the ground, drink some water, just trust your body knows what it's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. We are going to close out this call. Thank you so much for everybody who showed up. It just shows us how, intentional we're all out there wanting to really use this tool in our practices and integrate this to only enhance what we already have here. As a human being, as a healer, as a natural one to move and work with energy. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Healy, for sharing your experience and your ability to experiment and to trust. And I think the biggest thing that you said is like trusting that quantum sensor, I think is so powerful. There's been so much that's gone into this, and it's pretty groundbreaking and powerful. And so, yeah, I love it. I love it. And we can always continue the conversation in the chats as we explore and experiment. And I think there is actually a specific group for healers. Healy, are you in it? I
Oh,
don't.
no, I'd love to be.
Yeah, I'll pop that in the chat somewhere. I have to dig it out of the thing. There's so many chats, there's so many things. So at one point I was like, oh, they're coming up, but there is a healers group. I can't remember if it's on Telegram or what's that, but I'll pop that in the bigger frequency shift chat for those of you who want to explore the ways, because there's so many. One just like the thing that popped off the top of my head, I remember blew my mind for the first was like somebody using it to send frequencies to people who've passed over. And I was like, of course, there's no time to, and I was just like, this is great. So that moment was when I opened up so many different curiosities inside of myself of like, how else can we use this? So let's continue to keep working with the ways that we can utilize these frequencies to support us all. So thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you everyone for being here. This was fun.
Cool. Take care.
Bye.